All right, this is Scottie Blackburn. This is my MBA 517 regression final project. So this final project will deal with graduation rates at colleges. So I work for a graduate university and wanted to do a project that kind of deals with that topic and hopefully something will be helpful to our university. So graduation rate is something that's important for us. We also an important issue at colleges as well. Um, because graduation rates have been going down. So this statistic from the Wall Street Journal points that out. Just 52.9% of students who began at 2 and 4 year institutions in the fall of 2009 had graduated within 6 years, compared with 55% for the class that started in 2008 and 56.1% the year before that. The results could have widespread implications as more states consider funding colleges and universities based on student outcomes, including graduation rates. So graduation rate is going down. And for us, our school is in Georgia. And if you look at graduation rates by state, that's also a little concerning because in Georgia, our rate is currently at 47.5. The national average is at 55.5. So we are behind the curve. Um, and as a university, we want to always be aware of that number and we want to increase it and make it better. Another thing that you can look at with a graduation rate is the type of institution. Um, so this fact sheet, um, this fact from the National Center of Education Statistics shows that among first-time, full-time undergraduate students who began seeking a bachelor's degree at a 4-year degree granting institution in the fall of 2007, the 6-year graduation rate was 58% at public institutions, 65% at private nonprofit institutions, and 32% at private for-profit institutions. So if you look at institution type, there's quite a difference. I work at a private nonprofit institution, so 65% does make me feel good that we're higher than the others, but 65% isn't great. I mean, if you look at any high school and um, or if your kids go to high school and you said that their graduation rate is 65%, you would have great concern about what is going on and what they're teaching your students. But something that's widely accepted at colleges to have a somewhat low graduation rate. Now, our institution has a pretty high graduation rate. We're pretty proud of that, but we want to look at kind of data and things that might be correlated with that to help us continue to improve it. We want to increase the graduation rate, which is that first point. Higher graduation rate has a positive impact on students and their overall quality of life. Also has a positive impact on the health of the institution. The more students we can keep, the better it is for the institution financially. So the goal of this project is to research what measures besides what we already looked at, besides state, besides type of institution, what measures have a relationship with graduation rate. So this data was gathered from the U.S. Department of Education, the Institute of Educational Sciences, National Center for Educational Statistics. So the website is there, nces.ed.gov. So this data focuses on 970 colleges in Georgia and its surrounding states. So the factors that we decided to look at are tuition, enrollment, retention, financial aid, and average salary of instructors. So the question that we're posing is there a relationship between graduation rate and the factors that we research, which were tuition, enrollment, retention, financial aid, and average salary of instructors? So the null hypothesis is that there is no relationship, and the alternative is that there is a relationship and that these factors do have an impact on graduation rate. So some of our estimates starting out, we felt that tuition and fees would have a positive relationship with graduation rate. This is because of some of the research that shows that the higher the cost of a school, the more likely people are able to graduate, and that's kind of correlated with the better schools are able to charge more. With higher tuition becomes a perceived value in what the education that they're receiving. Secondly, enrollment. Feel that the higher the enrollment, the lower the graduation rate because at bigger schools, students aren't getting personal attention. Financial aid, we assume that there's a positive relationship because as students get more money for school, they're able to go to school. So we're hoping that there's a positive relationship there. Retention rate, I seem to this is first year retention rate would seem to have a positive relationship because if a student stays in school that first year, they're more likely to graduate, obviously. And then faculty salary, you felt like compensation for faculty, the higher it is, that there would be a positive relationship there. Um, and so that the higher the graduation rate would be if faculty salaries would be higher. So we did scatter plots on each of these, or I did scatter plots on each of these. So graduation rate, tuition and fees, you can see that there seems to be that line of best fit is showing a positive relationship. Enrollment on the scatter plot is showing negative. See, there, if you can see here, enrollment, there are a lot of, this scale isn't the best on this graph because there are very few really, really big schools and there are a lot of really, really small schools. Graduation rate by retention. So positive relationship showing there, the line is sloping upward. Financial aid, this one is interesting. We'll get to that more in the regression, is that there is a negative relationship with financial aid and graduation rate, meaning that the less financial aid someone receives, the more likely they are to graduate. And I think there's some reasons behind that as we search more. And then graduation by faculty salary, pretty flat according to this line of best fit, but does seem to be sloping upward. Now the specifics on this regression, the R squared is 0.42, so 42% of the change in graduation rate can be explained by this model, the inclusion of all these factors. So with the p-level for the regression being 0, it looks the model is statistically significant. When we look at the specific coefficients, we can see that all the p-levels are below 5%, except, and this is, it's cut off there, and I apologize for that, percentage of full-time students receiving financial aid. That's the financial aid coefficient. Is actually, the null hypothesis was accepted because the p-level is 0.12, which is above 0.05, which means that that is not statistically significant, which means that financial aid does not have a statistically significant impact on graduation rate. So interesting results there. One of the things that we thought was really going to be strong was not. So the overall regression results, the equation graduation rate is laid out there. And so these regression results are surprising and interesting. So overall 42%, we were hoping for 50, but 42% is pretty strong as well. 42% of the graduation rate can be explained by this model, which 42% comes from the R squared. That financial aid is not a statistically significant variable. The p-level was 0.13. Then enrollment is a positive coefficient, and faculty salary is actually a negative coefficient. So enrollment, the higher the enrollment, the higher the graduation rate, which was interesting. Faculty salary actually is a negative coefficient, meaning that the lower a faculty is paid, the higher the graduation rate, which I guess that's bad news for college faculty. So what we can do from this is look at it as an estimation. So just giving this a simple model for estimation, if you look at a $10,000 tuition, 1,000 students, 85% retention rate for the first year, 75% students receiving financial aid, and 50% of $50,000 faculty salary, your graduation rate would be 45%. So implications. One, financial aid is not as significant as I thought. And I think there can be just several reasons, is that financial aid can be associated with other factors. So students coming from high income families or well-educated families that are also may have higher incomes are not going to receive as much financial aid, but those students may have a higher success rate. So that kind of skews those figures. Also, some students who receive a lot of financial aid may not have family support. So they may not be able to complete college because of other family issues. So family background, I think, may be something to dive into as far as the financial aid, to see kind of more what's going on and why it's not significant. because we spend a lot of time on financial aid, we spend a lot of money on financial aid, and the hope is that it would make an impact for students. So that's something I think that we can dive into. Um, the fact of higher tuition is more likely to someone is more likely to graduate. I think we can see that if you have a good product, if the demand for the product is there, we shouldn't be afraid to charge a market price for it. I think that um, that institutions really need to look at the true value of their institution and what people are willing to pay for it, because if something is perceived as very valuable, people will be more likely to pay for it. And like those institutions that do have a high value or good reputation um, are producing a high graduation rate. Um, like we expected, first year retention rate is important. It is highly correlated. So focusing on those retention rates is important. Keeping students in school is important. And then the one other implication, lower paid faculty have a positive impact on graduation rate. So maybe that means that the faculty who are paid lower and are still there are committed to what they're doing. But it could be something to research more as well. So that is my regression project. It was really fun to look into these different factors and definitely gave us some more things to dive into as well. Thank you for your time.